We are coming up on the release of what is quickly becoming one of the more anticipated games of 2019, and that is A Plague Tale: Innocence. A couple months ago, I had known about A Plague Tale: Innocence, but it seems like the mainstream and the majority of gamers had not known about this game. But as we've seen more gameplay, as more footage has been released, and as we're getting closer and closer to the release, it seems like anticipation is increasing for the game, and that is so exciting to see because this is such a compelling game, such a unique new IP. It's tackling such a great setting, and I have all the hopes in the world for it. I'm hoping it turns out well because we need more compelling IPs in the gaming world, and this definitely has a lot of potential. And in today's video, with us coming up on the release of the game, I want to take a look at 10 huge things that you need to know about A Plague Tale: Innocence before you buy. So let's just get right into it. Number one, I always like to give you guys a little bit of background on the publisher and the developer, and this one is very interesting because it's published by Focus Home Interactive, and they've been putting out some very interesting games recently. I feel like Focus Home is becoming one of the more known publishers in gaming these days, and it's being developed by Asabo Studio. Now, this is the first major own IP game developed by Asabo Studio, and again, it's published by Focus Home. Asabo Studio is a relative unknown in the gaming industry. You're not even going to hear them among the ranks of mid-tier game developers. What they've worked on is a lot of lower key games. For example, they've worked on The Crew on last generation platforms, and they've helped out on a lot of games, but as far as creating their own big budget IP, Plague Tale: Innocence is definitely their first of that kind. So, you know, from their standpoint, this is kind of a first impression for them, and that is so important because not only is it a brand new IP, so making a first impression based on it being a new IP is important, but from them and their standpoint, you know, for them, it's an opportunity to deliver on a bigger stage, so you know there's a lot of pressure on them for them to deliver with A Plague Tale: Innocence. Number two, let's talk a little bit about the narrative of the game because this is definitely a story-driven game. A Plague Tale: Innocence follows the grim tale of young Amika and her little brother Hugo in a heart-rending journey through the darkest hours of history, hunted by Inquisition soldiers and surrounded by unstoppable swarms of rats. Amika and Hugo will come to know and trust each other. As they struggle to survive against overwhelming odds, they will fight to find purpose in a brutal, unforgiving world. The year is 1349. The plague ravages the kingdom of France. Amika and her younger brother Hugo are pursued by the Inquisition through villages devastated by the disease. On their way, they will have to join forces with other children and evade swarms of rats using fire and light. Aided only by the link that binds their fates together, they will face untold horrors in their struggle to survive. As their adventure begins, the time of innocence ends. Expect this to be a very dark game, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but also expect a very emotional journey throughout the story of A Plague Tale: Innocence. Number three, we just talked about how the game is going to be incredibly dark. Well, I want to take a look at some quotes from the developers of the game when they're describing A Plague Tale: Innocence and the story surrounding it. Quote, "It's definitely a dark game. We are coldly telling the harsh reality of the world of that time. However, there is no wanton violence. Amika will have to take decisions that will cost her part of her soul. It's a theme that we explore in our game. How far will she go in order to survive? Rats are the embodiment of the plague, the physical interpretation of an intangible disease. It's the element from history that we transform to give it something more fantastic. They are both an obstacle for the player, a key narration element, and a triggering factor." And lastly, it is a fantasized version of history, akin to a tale about the plague, filled with historical facts and anecdotes engraved in an environment we try to make as realistic as possible. Obviously, the game has its own story, but realism is a big factor in the game, and you see that not only in the visuals, but also the elements of storytelling they've decided to employ in the game. It just seems extremely dark in presentation, and if you're expecting a game that's all sunshine and rainbows, you are absolutely not getting that from A Plague Tale: Innocence. In terms of narration delivery, it reminds me a lot of a game like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, in that it is a little bit psychological, in that it is a little bit dark, but that is just speculation on my part. I see some other people making a similar comparison like that, so that's just something I wanted to note. Number four, of course, being a story-driven game, the characters are of utmost importance, and let's go over the characters. Amika de Rune is the main character. At just 15 years old, Amika is already a strong woman. Independent and physical, trained by her father in the art of hunting, she has had little contact with her brother while they were growing up, but soon their bond will be keeping them alive. Then there is, of course, her younger brother Hugo de Rune. The younger Hugo is a frail child of just 5 years, afflicted with an unknown disease that has kept him locked in his room for much of his lonely childhood. He has little knowledge of the outside world, but prefers even its dangers to his previous confinement. Of course, they are being hunted down by the Inquisition. As war and sickness engulf 14th century France, the Inquisition pursue the de Rune children for unknown reasons, out to capture their younger targets. Lacking the strength to defeat fully grown knights, Amika and Hugo will require guile and stealth to escape. And lastly, of course, you have the rats in the game. Rats swarm in uninterrupted waves throughout the territory of France, in the plague-ridden villages, countrysides, and battlefields. This uncontrollable and voracious mass advances relentlessly, devouring everything in their path. only the light of the flame seems to slow down this swarming menace. Of course, throughout the entirety of the game, you will meet other characters, but the story really centers around the two siblings in Amika and Hugo. Number 5, while the story does center around both Amika and Hugo, you will primarily be controlling Amika, a sling thrower who can throw rocks to break drawbridge chains or stun guards long enough for the rats to ambush them. She can also craft special ammunition and supplies, and then the younger brother can be directed towards specific tasks when Amika is busy. Kinda reminds me a little of God of War and Kratos and his son Atreus, but nonetheless, you will be primarily playing as Amika, and then Hugo will be doing other minuscule tasks, which makes a lot of sense given the sickly nature that Hugo is currently in. Number 6, the game will also consist of many puzzles, namely survival puzzles, mostly consisting of methods to scare away or distract the hordes of hungry rats or direct them towards murderous knights. Number 7, of course, you'll have to fend off the rats as well, and your main method to do so is fire, as rats will seldom enter with a radius of burning torches and braziers. Number 8, I know whenever dropping full price on a game, something a lot of gamers think about is how long is a game gonna be. Well, A Plague Tale Innocence isn't gonna be a game with a ton of content. In an interview with Well Played, the game's director Kevin Chautu revealed that the game's campaign will take around 12 to 15 hours to complete. Look, I know that might be a little bit off-putting to some of you guys that are expecting all of these games to be big budget open world RPGs with north of 100 hours of content. However, given that this is a narrative driven game, given the presentation style and the gameplay it's employing, a game like this stretched out over the course of 30, 40, even 50 hours, that just wouldn't be good. I am all for a game prioritizing quality over quantity, and in the case of Plague Tale Innocence, I really think that's what they're going for, and I expect a 12 to 15 hour campaign that's filled with quality. Number 9, as you might have noticed, A Plague Tale Innocence has some stunning visuals, and PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One players can look forward to 4K resolution, giving unparalleled definition to the landscapes, people, and horrors of A Plague Tale's world. Also on PC, A Plague Tale embraces the power of Nvidia's Ansel photo mode to allow players to create their own screenshots. As well, with all Ansel-powered games, this allows you to pause the action, hide the UI, and enable the free camera, as well as apply filters and special effects to frame the perfect shot and export it to a very high resolution. If you guys have not been impressed with this game's technical presentation, I don't really know what to say. Fact being that this game is coming from Focus Home, and I generally don't associate them with these technically brilliant games. In the case of A Plague Tale Innocence, it is technically a brilliant game. The visuals are stunning, and I hope that translates to the final product on the PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox One X, and PC. Number 10, lastly, when are you going to be able to play A Plague Tale Innocence? Well, relatively soon. It's releasing on May 14th for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and of course, it's enhanced for the Pro and Xbox One X, as we just covered. And even though that this is a big budget game, the game is actually releasing at a $49.99 price point instead of a $59.99 price point, so that's something I can definitely get behind. I'm all for games being discounted a little bit, and even if you are maybe off-put a little bit by that 12 to 15 hour notion, hopefully the fact of it being $49.99 instead of $59.99 makes it a little bit more palatable. And you can also pre-order the game, and that'll get you some bonuses. You'll receive 2 bonuses upon release, 3 alternative outfits and coats of arms for Amika and Hugo, and then you'll also get a dynamic theme for the PlayStation 4 system's home screen. I do want to note that May is a relatively quiet month in terms of big game releases, so A Plague Tale Innocence might actually have some room to shine, even though it's coming out on the same day as Rage 2. It's not like Rage 2 is this gigantic blockbuster of a game that's going to dwarf everything in its presence, and it actually seems like with a quieter month like this, I think A Plague Tale Innocence is going to have some room to shine, so we'll see how it turns out on May 14th. And that's gonna conclude this video. I really wanted to upload a video about A Plague Tale Innocence because seemingly, based on the comment section and based on what I'm seeing on social media and Reddit, there is a groundswell of hype and anticipation building for the game, and I really hope that leads into the game delivering on May 14th. Now, obviously, it has to be a quality-filled game and it has to deliver from a quality standpoint, but I feel like if the quality is there, gamers are gonna be all over it, and it is coming out on the same day as Rage 2. However, from a personal standpoint, I know that Rage 2 is gonna be a pretty good game, but I am a little bit more captivated by A Plague Tale Innocence. I like the story, I like the narrative it's going for. It looks to be a very dark and emotional game, and I'm always all over games like that, so I'm hoping for the best out of this game when it does drop May 14th. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Are you excited for the game? Maybe you're gonna wait on a sale? Wouldn't hold you to that all too much, as there is a little bit of skepticism with this game being a new IP, being from a relatively unknown studio, but sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.